The modern world has built the greatest psychological illusion in history to numb the minds of the masses and turn them into easily herdable objects of consumption. The fairy tale of constant happiness. From the moment you wake up, everywhere, from social media algorithms to personal development nonsense, whispers that you must be joyful at all times, forgive people, and get lost in those fake corridors of toxic positivity. However, when you face the ice-cold reality of dark psychology and Machiavellian philosophy, you see that this concept of happiness sold to the masses is actually a massive trap designed to leave people vulnerable. Ordinary people seek happiness in fleeting hits of dopamine from the outside world, in an endless need for validation, and in what others think of them. This means handing over the key to your soul with your own hands to society and your rivals, who can enslave you at any moment. The moment you analyze what makes a person happy, what cheap pleasures they are addicted to, and what weaknesses feed them, you have mapped out their mind. In dark triad psychology, this means knowing exactly where the prey stands and what bait will draw them into the trap. For a true strategist, happiness is not a fake smile on the face or a temporary wave of pleasure. In our world, happiness is absolute mental sovereignty and an unshakable sense of inner satisfaction. If you do not emotionally fluctuate in the face of the chaotic events developing around you, the moves of your rivals, or the ruthless crises life throws your way, it means you have turned your mind into an impenetrable fortress. While ordinary masses soar above the clouds with the slightest praise and tumble into the dark wells of depression with the slightest criticism or betrayal, a Machiavellian mind watches all these external factors merely as data, as pawn movements on a chessboard. What can you use to frighten? What can you use to manipulate a person who is stripped of their emotions? Nothing. This is exactly why emotional isolation and rational utilitarianism are the strongest armor you can wear against the mental slavery brought by the modern age. Fully accepting that life has a ruthless and dark order, making peace with this reality, and setting your own rules builds a much deeper peace than that fake pursuit of happiness. Human nature always hides behind morality and positivity to conceal powerlessness and weakness. Those who tell you to love and forgive everyone are actually weak characters, open to manipulation, who lack the power to take their own revenge. True power begins with not allowing your emotions to establish a tyranny over you. Concepts like love, anger, joy, or mercy are not completely erased from your life. However, they transform into strategic instruments used not as uncontrolled outbursts, but only at the times you choose and within the limits you define. An individual who cannot become the dictator of their own inner world is always doomed to remain a slave serving the vision of others in the external world. Therefore, you must stop seeking happiness as a goal, and instead target power, control, and mental invincibility. That deep, cold, and noble satisfaction felt by a person who writes their own rules, builds their own kingdom, and shapes the chaos around them like a sculptor is the only true peace that the masses will never understand, a peace that only the leaders who write history with their own blood can possess. The second great step an individual must take to become the absolute master of their own destiny and reach an unshakable inner balance in this chaotic world is to filter the world and human relationships around them with the ruthless precision of a surgeon. The vast majority of people are unhappy because of the wrong figures they recklessly include in their lives, unnecessary dramas, and their meaningless obsessions over events that develop beyond their control. In a power-oriented life philosophy, peace is hidden not in the loud and fake applause of crowds, but in that clear and sharp silence brought by strategic isolation. Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who made Stoic philosophy a way of life while fighting on the borders during the most difficult periods of ancient Rome and being surrounded by the betrayal of his closest friends in his palace, left us the legacy of the inner citadel concept. Aurelius found happiness not in a fake environment of peace in the external world, but behind those impenetrable walls he built within his own mind, where no enemy and no betrayal could infiltrate. The historiopsyche philosophy requires exactly this mental architecture. You must design your life like a massive chessboard devoid of emotions, where every move is calculated in advance. Every individual around you, from the closest to the furthest, is either a strategic ally serving your grand vision, goals, and growth, or a parasite draining your mental energy, time, and potential. The moment you detect these parasites, regardless of the emotional bonds between you, you must cut them out of your life with ruthless clarity. This isolation does not mean completely disconnecting from the world or taking refuge in the helplessness of loneliness. On the contrary, it is a strategic domain of sovereignty with borders drawn in iron, where you have the absolute say over who stands at what distance. When you reset your expectations of people, no one has the luxury of disappointing you, upsetting you, or disrupting your mental balance. Betrayal only hurts you if you are surprised by it and caught off guard. But if you accept from the very beginning that human nature is fundamentally selfish, manipulative, and self-serving, the Machiavellian reality, and make your plans according to this mathematical certainty, betrayal becomes merely a predictable rule of the game for you. True peace and fulfillment are only possible by embracing the philosophy of amor fati, love your fate, in its darkest form against the storms blowing outside. You must stop viewing the obstacles, crises, slanders, or enemy moves you encounter as disasters. These are training grounds that test your intelligence, strategic genius, and willpower, sharpening you more with each passing day. Weak characters shed tears in a moment of crisis, take refuge in a victim mentality, and question why the world is treating them unfairly. Dark intellects holding power, however, design chaos itself as a weapon, see the gaps within that chaos, and while everyone is in a state of panic, they feed off that chaos with cold blood, rising with an even more colossal power. Your greatest happiness in this world should be watching the flawless system you have built, the projects you have produced, and the perception you manage functioning like clockwork from a high tower. The moment you realize you need no one, and that even when you are alone, your mind is your most loyal friend and your deadliest weapon against your rivals, no storm in this world can destroy your inner citadel. Society may label you as cold, distant, arrogant, or emotionless. This situation is merely proof of their weaknesses and the inaccessible level you have reached. Far beyond their small, stormy emotional struggles, you live life by your own rules as the sole ruler of the universe you have created. When someone tells you how to live happily, they will probably advise you to look in the mirror and smile every morning, forgive the people who backstabbed you, and send positive energies to the universe. This is a fairy tale of happiness told to sheep, invented to leave them completely defenseless and numb against the teeth of the wolf. In the real world, from the top floors of corporate plazas to the darkest corners of the streets, someone who constantly smiles and trusts everyone is merely a naive prey waiting to be manipulated and crushed at the first opportunity. Welcome to Historipsyche. Today, we will not tell you about those numbing, fake positivity pills of modern society, but about that true, ice-cold peace hidden by history's greatest strategists, kings, and emperors. Take today's business world. When a CEO sits at the table to completely bankrupt a rival firm or absorb it into their own structure, they sell a fake vision of partnership, synergy, and growing together to the executives on the other side. They offer them a false sense of trust and an illusion of happiness. The moment the other side believes this pink dream and lowers their defense shields, that CEO, with massive armies of lawyers behind them, pulverizes the entire existence of that company. Those signatures signed under the bright lights in that luxury meeting room are actually the document of a flawlessly planned takeover, a ruthless victory. The deep satisfaction felt by the leader holding the power here is not a cheap joy. It is that unshakable inner strength brought by a plan, intelligence, and absolute control. Or think of when a massive crisis breaks out in a large company, and the board of directors pins the blame entirely on a scapegoat, throwing them to the media and the public. While the public is happy with a fake sense of justice watching that victim, the mind that gave the actual order wipes its hands with a clean napkin and leans back in its chair. This is the order in the real world. The great leaders in history did not seek happiness in crowds or the temporary love of people. They found happiness in one single thing: absolute control. Any individual who fails to become a tyrant over their own mind is doomed to always live as someone else's slave in the external world. Put aside those consumption-oriented, fake happiness photos and the endless desire for validation that social media forces upon you. Focus your energy not on the people who drag you down or unnecessary emotional dramas, but only on the projects and goals that will make you stronger, smarter, and more invincible. Draw your borders with iron walls. People may not understand you, they may call you distant and cold. Let them talk. Enjoy the kingdom you have built, far above their small, stormy worlds. Now lean back, turn your mind into an impenetrable fortress, and remember, in this world, you are either the prey or the predator. The choice is yours.